September 11th, the United States was kind of shocked into a reality by the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. And we were forced to reevaluate our role and our understanding of Homeland Security. Through that reevaluation, we've decided we needed to create some new organizational structure. An example would be a new cabinet-level Department of Homeland Security, as well as a new combatant commander for the first time to look at the continental United States and the surrounding waters and its maritime security implications. The real issue here is the fact that to provide Homeland Security, Homeland Defense, it crosses multiple organizational structures and boundaries through federal, state, local, and even the private sector. And to coordinate and compensate for all of these different aspects and provide unity of effort is a difficult thing. Immediately following 9/11, the United States Navy and a variety of joint commands approached the War College, the Wargaming Department in particular, and asked if we could provide games and events to help them construct this coordinating body. The results were that after about a year's worth of wargaming, is that a con plan needed to be created to work out the problems in coordination between the United States Navy and the United States Coast Guard. And that we needed to really get NORAD, NORTHCOM, and the Department of Homeland Security full up and running. Based on that, the wargamings and the events came to a halt while those documents and that structure was trying to be created. At the same time, we were approached by a variety of state and municipal organizations who wanted us to help them in their approach to Homeland Security, Vice Homeland Defense. They needed to reorganize themselves and reapproach the issues of resource allocation the way they have to deal with the threat, having never actually been targets themselves. This was a good opportunity for the Navy and DoD alike because we were exposed to those things in terms of civil support and interagency coordination, which we've never had to deal with before. And as you've seen, as we get into episodes like Katrina and earthquakes and those kinds of defense support to civil authorities, they've been very valuable in the training opportunities. So we pursued those games and did games for NYPD, the Fire Department of New York, New York City OEM, the City of Providence, Rhode Island, the State of Rhode Island, State of New York, State of Maine, State of Michigan, State of Virginia, FEMA Region 1, Region 2, and it goes on and on and on, a variety of different games helping these organizations trying to get their structure cemented underneath them so they would be valuable. Through this process, NORTHCOM and DHS stood full up, and we have now since gone back to Homeland Defense games in terms of providing security for the United States and our maritime environment through the support of a document called the National Strategy for Maritime Security. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the past, but I thought I would concentrate on those efforts that we're concentrating on and working on towards the future. The first I'd like to talk about is the Maritime Homeland Security Homeland Defense series of games, which were designed specifically to work the Coast Guard and Navy coordination issues in terms of transfer of forces, application, rules of engagement, and those types of issues. And through the process of those games, we've been able to coordinate also Canadian maritime forces and to a limited extent the Navy of the Mexicans in terms of how we can provide a maritime secure environment for the whole of North America. As a spin-off from those games, we have created a series called the Maritime Operational Threat Response, or MOTOR for short, which looks at the coordination efforts that goes on between Department of State, Department of Homeland Security, Department of Defense, and Department of Justice in terms of how do we achieve the desired end state in terms of a maritime threat. How do we want that thing to end up? Those games have been going on for 6 years as well. In addition to that, we've started a new series looking at maritime domain awareness from a variety of different aspects. One is to look specifically at the U.S. Navy, U.S. Coast Guard approach in terms of coming up with the concept of operations and working through the process in terms of how the Navy and the Coast Guard is going to look at maritime domain awareness, or information sharing is another way to understand that. Through that process, we've also expanded out to work this as an approach to a global environment. We have 2 projects coming up over the next year, which will end up bringing in all of the participants from the International Sea Symposium, 118 maritime nations around the world, to come back here and participate in terms of defining what maritime domain awareness means to them, how to coordinate that information sharing process, and establish a better, secure environment in the maritime environment for commercial trade and those types of things. Fourth project is we teach a year-long elective here, and that is to prepare future military leaders to look at key factors that affect maritime security and defense support for civil authorities. We take students through 3 full trimesters, have them work through a variety of issues through Homeland Security, Homeland Defense, defense support to civil authorities, and then actually have them work through those processes to look for the answers, potential solutions, and the experience level that they would need for when they move on to operational commands and they have to deal with these types of issues. And the last project we have is a traveling roadshow, for lack of better terms. It's a traveling course called the Maritime Homeland Security Defense Planners Workshop, where we go out and instruct and provide familiarization to operational planning staffs in the Navy and Coast Guard alike, and recently up to the combatant commander level, in terms of the national references and documents that all of those watchstanders need to be intimately familiar with so they can perform their responsibilities to work the Homeland Security, Homeland Defense issue as far away from U.S. shores as possible.